Now, how many of you knows who's Versailles' father really is and where to actually come from? Because it sort of depends which section on the fandom you know him from. Because the father of Versailles, called Mr. Noseybonk, is very interesting because the very end you know him is because of from the creepy pasta or Black Mirror. But Mr. Noseybot actually goes even deeper than that and sort of connects with Verisites being her father, even that the creator of villainous never intended to be the sort of adopted by Mr. Neobot. It's one of those things, sort of, I said at the very beginning or one of my last videos, how villainous is sort of was created by the internet in a way, and because of this, it's one of the biggest examples what I actually mean. Now, before I breaking down and find out who is Mr. Needlebob and why the reason why he connected to their side, my name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, the reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going, like to help my channel, pull like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine. If you do, thank you. Because of you, I'm getting close to my main goal of 2,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close every single day because of people like you. People pull like, comment, and share. Now, let me break it down how this became a thing in the community. Now, let's get started. Now, you may heard some fan talk about Mr. Noseybonk being the father of Marisites. In a way, yes, but that sort of became sort of a meme by accident. That is not a really official canon, but you could say it's more fan canon than anything else. And I think I first have to explain who is Mr. Needlebob. Well, I have to say it starts with a show called Jigsaw from the BBC. And no, don't get confused of the horror American version called Jigsaw. These two IPs are completely different. Jigsaw, the British version, is actually made a educating show created back in 1979, and it actually made for young children ages 4 to 7. And the whole show is basically a sort of mime doing little things to grab your attention. If you have a puppet who is basically a puzzle who gives you clues what is the word of the day, and you give you clue after clue of the whole episode to understand what they're trying to educate of that day. And during this time, you have the short segment of Mr. Noseybonk's segments, and these segments are basically completely silent. It's just Noseybob and this sort of weird mask that it looked like a death mask from Japan that usually is sort of a horrific thing about to happen when you wear the mask. But the shorts are nothing about that. It's just him going about doing his own thing. But because how this was created back like in the, I remember the 70s or 80s ish, it was, yeah, it's about the 80s, like the early late 80s downwards, and have that sort of kind of vibe from that era, that sort of vintage worn out colored yellow thing. And on top of all this, how the character Mr. Needlebob has this weird mask and he doesn't talk. Everything he moves, how he does it, is almost erratic. On top of this, it doesn't help fast forwards his footage doing that segment, because the segment are basically 1 minute long. On top of this, he only appears a couple of times in the main series, and he just there sort of learning new words and doing weird odd things just to grab your attention. But nobody really remembers the show Jigsaw till the creator of Black Mirror, another BBC show, that he decided to use Mr. Needlebob doing his show, because he remembers back in the day he was a child, saw this character from the show Jigsaw, and on top of this, it completely scared him. Even that, he's not the only one who was scared of him. Many British people or people who watched the show Jigsaw were completely scared of him. And you have this sort of linger of who is this character and why he creeped me out. This is the reason why he used this character in Black Mirror, because it just creeped him out. This is the reason why he became sort of a kind of cult hit. Everyone remember the show just because of that character. Even that, the segments he were appearing, he was sort of okay. He was still educational, sweet, kind, but how everything feels like a dream state, how it's sped up. You can tell why a lot of kids were actually scared. Even that I actually have some time to watch some of the skits this character came out. They're not fully disturbing, but you can tell why people feel it disturbing. It's all about the mask and the actor, how he moved erratically. You understand why people were completely scared of. Now, because of Black Mirror and they showed that specific episode for Mr. Noseybonk to reappear, he kind of blew up in the horror community, specifically in the creepy pasta community, to make more stories, more lore, more things because of that. But because how the internet works, it kind of reflects how villainous works too. Because the fans took the idea and decided to adopt that character to be the father of Venombite. The reason why is because both characters have sort of similarities. Now, thanks to a fan or art creator called Sand and Pine on Twitter/X, he posts an image of Mr. Noseybonk with Venombite being her father. At least it's sort of a gag in the community, but nobody really thought this would sort of become a hit in the community. In fact, I think all thanks to another animator who is working on villainous behind the scenes called Ami Kwimi, who posted down below. I guess this is canon now in a way, in a different language, but you get what she's trying to say, because now every time Venombite as reference as a sort of conversation, her father reappears, because a lot of people like this sort of idea. Even Alan has an opinion about Mr. Noseybonk, because he even commented that he is aware this character is a thing, but he doesn't like how the fans wrote Venombite being sort of a emo. He does it a little bit more different, but you get the idea. Now, some of you are basically asking some questions like, does not make sense how this sort of be canon or fan canon, even both characters are created in different worlds. Specifically, Mr. Nosebug lives in British and Leonardo live in Mexico. The reason that is sort of clear is pretty easy, is because in the comic of High Risk, Venombite says, yeah, her father is from actually UK and she sent some money. But on top of all this, how she looks like a death mask on her own face reflects Mr. Noseybonk, how he looks. It easily can tell this two could be easily related just because of character design. On top of this, Venombite is technically British, and that is just sort of an interesting take, how fans go super far to connect one character and the other, sometimes on purpose, other times by accident. On top of everything else, there are technically two lores about Venombite. One is canon, one is fan canon. Let's talk about the canon version from Villainous that come out the book How to Be Evil by Black Cat, that appears Venombite doing an interview explaining how she get this parasite on her chest and the sort of things what happened. That she described she was sort of sick as a child, but never really clarify why she's sick. But one day she went to this sort of kind of camp. She went for a little kid with all the little kids because her father sent it that. But there were two adults who are completely interested of Venombite because she won technically a game. At least that's how her point of view, because how she breaks it down seems to be maybe a medical center and a bunch of other kids are sick and we have two adults who actually help her out. But how she young is, she doesn't understand how sick she really is. She was given a specific parasite to help her to fix her basically physical issues or illness aside her. But everything isn't vague. It depends on your opinion of the interpretation of Venombite explanation. But the two people who help her is specifically are the two main group members of the high elite of Black Cat, who right now they don't have a name. They are just basically coined as sort of the elite because they don't really know who they are. These sort of group members who want to help Parasite, but we don't know. We assume the fan main assumes that her father, who knows them or is one of them, asked for a favor to save her daughter. That one is your interpretation of Parasite's sort of explanation, and you could tell how everything sort of connects. But there is a fan main explanation who add an extra layer the scenario what happened to Parasite. There will be the Phantom of Mysteries of Puppets, if I said that correctly, a very long name. And this a fan made sort of comic, sort of add some things from the original lore. It just does a fan point of view, what their own interpretation of that interview of Parasite from the book of How to Be Evil by Black Cat. And this one sort of explains at least their own interpretation, because the first image of the comic is sort of explained Parasite and her father playing with a sort of disc, not realizing this disc is sort of a summoning sort of spell to summon Black Cat. And during this time, Parasite got picked up by Black Cat and sort of kind of stabbed by him, just sort of transforming her to be Parasite in a way. And Mr. Needlebug doesn't like that, but Black Cat sort of calms him down, saying, "Don't worry, don't be a hero right now, just wait." And Mr. Needlebug does not have a choice because he has nothing to actually face him off. But in this scene what happened to Parasite transforming, becoming sort of a puppet for Black Cat. And Mr. Needlebug has nothing else to actually stop him, just accept the sort of situation. And that is just sort of what happened in the comic. I highly recommend it. If you could find this comic, read it. It's actually pretty interesting. It also is pretty short, but it's sort of an interpretation. It kind of adds some things of the original canon show, but at the same time, it doesn't really connect to the original. But it is sort of interesting how this sort of interpret how Mr. Noseybonk, how he feels about Dollar. Someone who actually cares about her, but at the same time, he has no choice is to give him to Black Cat. But once more, it's sort of the interpretation, how you read basically the interview of the Parasite and sort of the fan interpretation. But all of that, that's all I can say about it. This is the reason why you see her reappear. Not all the time, with Mr. Noseybonk, but you know why they connected. It's because it's how the internet kind of works. It almost reflects whatever things become popular or creepy somehow, some way. Sometimes they use that to connect it to villainous or one ship on the forum. But other than that, that's all I can say. The question is, do you actually knew about this? You understood the meme or not? Or you never was aware? Tell me down below, let me know. I got nothing else to say, just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.